Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends, and welcome back for round 2 of the Narcissist game. Today, we're going to be looking at episodes 3, maybe a little bit of 2, maybe a little bit of 4, to find the best examples of Harry and Meghan acting like textbook narcissists. Just like last time, I want you all to share your best examples of Harry and Meghan's dark, dark traits in the comments below. Sign 6. Lack of boundaries. Many people lack boundaries or cross other people's boundaries regularly, but among narcissists, this is status quo behavior. Narcissists can't accurately see where they end and you begin. They're a lot like 2-year-olds. They believe that everything belongs to them. Everyone thinks and feels the same as they do, and everyone wants the same things they do. They are shocked and highly insulted to be told no. If a narcissist wants something from you, they'll go to great lengths to figure out how to get it through persistence, cajoling, demanding, rejecting, or pouting. These are all common narcissist behaviors. Now, of course, there are more egregious examples, but I really want to run a pet theory I have by you. I want to hear your feedback. Do you remember the red dress? It was ill-fitting, inappropriate in color and scale, you might say. And at the time, a lot of people said, oh, cheapy Megsy, still trying to fit into samples after she gave birth. But then in episode 3, we find out it's actually Carolina Herrera Couture by Wes Gordon. In the episode, he's completely unacknowledged as just a man under Meghan's dress.
You're getting loud. There are now 3 people under your dress.
Do you have enough light?
Wes Gordon has been a member of the New York high fashion establishment for a long time. He's not my favorite designer in the world, but he can cut. He is a twice-over CFDA award nominee, and moreover, he specializes in, shall we say, attention-grabbing décolletage. There are umpteen examples over his career where he has made this work, but it didn't work on Meghan. Why? I have some ideas. First, you'll notice that they're doing the fitting at her place. He had to bring his team and all their stuff. How tiresome. This is clearly not last-minute styling. It's clearly not even a final fitting. This looks like a first fitting. This isn't typical. Even the richest of ladies will usually go to the atelier. Also, we can see that this is evening at best, nighttime at worst. He's keeping his team after hours for her convenience. When we all know Meghan and Harry kind of have nothing to do, and they could have allotted an extra afternoon in their trip for this. They don't even have a 3-way mirror where they are. Based on what we see in this episode, it looks like she emailed them incorrect measurements, or measurements of where she hoped she would be once she lost 10 pounds she didn't lose, and here they are pinning her in a half-length bathroom mirror. It's obvious it was more important to Meghan to be treated like royalty than to have her dress made properly. Also, clearly Harry doesn't remember or never tagged along on his mother's fittings because there are always 4 people in the appointment. There's the designer fighting for their vision. There's the number 1 telling the designer what is actually physically, humanly possible. There's someone else from the workshop pinning and measuring. And there's a 3rd person from the workshop taking notes and pictures. There are always 4. The fact that they included Harry prattling on about the artisans under her dress as if they were Polychanels dancing for Mother Ginger is kind of demeaning. Wes Gordon is used to working with socialites. He was considered a good inheritor for the Carolina Herrera brand because he's a lot like her. He married a scion of the Arnhold banking dynasty, securing his own social status, if you will, and was a talented designer and leveraged both of those into becoming the go-to man for New York City socialites, much like Carolina was. Yet Meghan and Harry didn't even name drop Carolina Herrera or Wes Gordon or otherwise promote the brand in any way. Total nobodies in this series have their names shared with pointless descriptors like friend, and Wes Gordon, creative director of one of New York's most prestigious fashion houses, doesn't even get a title bar. Why? I think CH was ready to cultivate Meghan as a couture client, but she asked for a discount, payment in kind, or something like that, believing she was the bigger name and doing them a favor by wearing their clothes, not understanding that people like Carolina and Wes are just as rich as she is and have been in society longer than she has. They want her, but they don't need her, so they politely declined and sent her out looking like shit for a laugh because she crossed their boundaries. Do you think my theory is correct? What do you think the best example of H&M not respecting boundaries is? Sign 7. Lack of empathy. Narcissists have very little ability to empathize with others. This lack of empathy is a hallmark sign of narcissism. Narcissists tend to be selfish and self-involved and are usually unable to understand what other people are feeling. They expect others to think and feel the same as they do and seldom give any thought to how others feel. They are also rarely apologetic, remorseful, or guilty. Some narcissists also lack an understanding of the nature of feelings. They don't understand how their feelings occur. They think their feelings are caused by someone or something outside of themselves. They don't realize that their feelings are caused by their own biochemistry, thoughts, and interpretations. In a nutshell, narcissists always think you cause their feelings, especially the negative ones. They conclude that because you didn't follow their plan or because you made them feel vulnerable, you are to blame. This lack of empathy makes true emotional connection and relationships with narcissists difficult or impossible, whether you're dating one or were raised by a narcissist. They just don't notice what anyone else is feeling. So the obvious, really sad example of this is Meghan not inviting her niece to her wedding.
Feel like because of her it was taken away has been hard.
So many elements of narcissism were on display in this action. Meghan and Harry denied responsibility, saying they were going on palace advice, but it's since come out that that's a lie. The palace actually wanted her to invite more family and fewer celebrities. The truth seems to be that they did it to try to control and silence Samantha, believing that if they punished her daughter, she would stop shit-talking Meghan for at least a while on the hope she could get that invite for her daughter. And if she didn't, fuck them both. Never mind that Ashley believed
There's like a sister element, there's something maternal, she's a best friend, she's, kind of all the things.
who cares about Ashley's feelings? Not Meghan and Harry. Meghan could not even act like she cared.
And I called her and I had her on speakerphone and we talked her through what guidance we were being given and why this assessment was made. And that's painful.
Did Meghan care about losing Ashley as a friend? Did you catch that micro expression, that little duper's delight smile?
And that's painful.
Meghan got satisfaction from hurting Ashley. Sign 8. Perceiving everything as a threat. Although they're highly attuned to perceived threats, anger, and rejection from others, narcissists frequently misread subtle facial expressions and are typically biased toward interpreting facial expressions as negative. Unless you are acting out your emotions dramatically, the narcissist won't accurately perceive what you're feeling. Even saying, "I'm sorry" or "I love you" when the narcissist is on edge and angry can backfire. They won't believe you and may even misperceive your comment as an attack. In addition, if your words and expressions aren't congruent, the narcissist will likely respond erroneously or get defensive. This is why narcissists often misinterpret sarcasm as actual agreement or joking from others as a personal attack. The lack of ability to correctly read body language, a common narcissist trait, is one reason narcissists are deficiently empathetic to your feelings. They don't see them, they don't interpret them correctly, and overall, they don't believe you feel any differently than they do. The obvious, looming example of this is H&M's irrational, absurd hatred of the media and how they've built their entire lives and identities around this one existential fear.
It all comes down to control. It's like, this family is ours to exploit. Their trauma is our story and our narrative to control.
In this 6-hour documentary, a full 2 hours and 12 minutes is spent discussing the media. And I'm not counting the news sound bites or headline graphics they use as narrative devices. I'm not counting tangential media topics like her blog or press conferences. More than 1/3 of this entire series is simply them bitching about the media. They claim the media is physically stalking them, which it's not. They claim the media is insufficiently regulated, which it isn't. They claim the media has ruined their private relationships, which it hasn't. But more than that, they justify their own nasty behavior, like with Ashley, by saying it was only necessary because of how things would look in the media. When they want to insult other people, like King Charles and Prince William, they say they only care about competing for positive media coverage, which, by the way, is clearly not true.
If you don't try to work out in your own mind some kind of method for existing and surviving this kind of thing, you would go mad, I think.
And most damningly, they claim criticisms of them expressed by verifiable private individuals are simply algorithmic copy-pastes from trolls and bots, permitted by the existence of unregulated social media.
We know that a small group of accounts are allowed to create a huge amount of chaos online and without any consequence whatsoever.
And to add insult to injury, they base their opinions of us, their critical public, on a report by Christopher Boozy, who has since been completely discredited by Twitter itself. He claimed to have a 95% accuracy rate in identifying troll accounts, and according to Twitter, reviewing the same tweets, reviewing their accounts, his accuracy rate is actually only 6.5%.
Bot Sentinel has looked at everything from QAnon to MAGA to COVID disinformation to climate change disinformation. We've never seen anything quite like this.
We looked at 114,000 tweets, and we were able to then determine that 70% of the hateful content came from just 83 accounts, and it had a reach of 17 million people. So this is not your everyday trolling. They were coordinating and talking about what they would discuss for that particular day or week, what pictures they should disseminate. They were actively recruiting people, telling people how to create multiple accounts, how to use VPNs, virtual private networks, to hide the IP so they don't get suspended.
Of course, it's since come out in the woodwork that this is not at all true. Yes, there are a few genuinely offensive, extreme racists here and there that Twitter usually manages to filter out anyway, but there's certainly no coordinated network of anti-Meghan hate. Moreover, it's come out that Christopher Boozy was hired by Meghan and by Amber Heard and others to troll their opponents, to troll Will and Kate, to troll Johnny Depp online. So the methods he describes are likely not the methods he identified in others, but the methods he himself employs. If you want to learn more about this, you have to watch Nate the Lawyer. It's intriguing. Even more audacious, they have Sophia Noble as one of their talking heads, the woman they just paid a $100,000 grant to through making her the first recipient of their NAACP award.
What was interesting to me about that report is that it showed that there were a handful of accounts that weren't just bots, but they were people who were highly coordinated and deeply networked and responsible for the vast majority of hate propaganda against the couple.
She calls tweets from members of the public hate propaganda. Hate propaganda. She should be absolutely ashamed of herself. She's supposed to be an academic, and she sits here with a straight face on a documentary that will be seen by millions, saying she doesn't know the difference between hate speech and people who call Meghan the B word. I really don't know which of their beliefs is more preposterous. The idea that everybody would love them if only we weren't brain dead media addicts, or the idea that they can fight and win a war on free speech in the free world. No one is out to get you, H&M, if you weren't so constantly, transparently harebrained in your own never-ending media messages about yourselves. We might think you were fascist monsters. Sign 9. Emotional reasoning. You've probably made the mistake of trying to reason and use logic with the narcissist to get them to understand the painful effect their behaviors have on you. You think that if they understand how much their behavior hurt you, they'll change. Your explanations, however, don't make sense to the narcissist, who only seems able to be aware of their own thoughts and feelings. Although narcissists may say they understand, they honestly don't. Therefore, narcissists make most of their decisions based on how they feel about something. They simply must have that red sports car, based entirely on how they feel driving it, not by whether it's a good choice to make for the family or for the budget. If they're bored or depressed, they want to move or end the relationship or start a new business. They always look to something or someone outside themselves to solve their feelings and needs. They expect you to go along with their quote-unquote solutions, and they react with irritation and resentment if you don't. Call me a romantic, but my favorite example of narcissistic, emotions-driven decision-making is Harry marrying Meghan.
I think for so many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mold, as opposed to somebody who you perhaps are destined to be with. Difference between making decisions with your head or your heart. And my mum certainly made most of her decisions, if not all of them, from her heart. And I am my mother's son. So much of what Meghan is and how she is so similar to my mum. She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her.
I'm not saying that members of a royal family should or shouldn't marry for love. I believe everyone deserves love in their life, however they get it, whatever they're comfortable with. But the way Harry describes his reasoning for marrying Meghan reveals his narcissism. He simply would not be denied his new shiny toy. He had to have it, even though it had the wrong plug, and he'd have to buy a converter, which would be a waste of money and hard to find. And he wouldn't wait until Christmas morning to open it. He had to have it now. And last for today, sign 10. Splitting. The narcissist's personality is split into good and bad parts, and they also split everything in their relationships into good and bad. Any negative thoughts or behaviors are blamed on you or others, whereas they take credit for everything that is positive and good. They deny their negative words and actions while continually accusing you of disapproving. They also remember things as completely good and wonderful or as bad and horrible. They can't seem to mix these two constructs. Narcissists aren't able to feel or remember both the positive and the negative in a situation. They can deal with only one perspective at a time, theirs. Probably the most commonly asked question about Meghan and Harry is, whatever happened, how could they be so unhappy? They can literally go home and fuck on a mattress filled with cash in the middle of a California garden the size of Versailles. This is how. Splitting. But I have to choose a specific example, and sticking to episode 3, I am choosing their total demonization of Will and Kate, which I believe started very early on in their tenure as working royals.
All the work you do together is great, but working together as family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes. Healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember, they come so thick and fast.
But is it resolved? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Well, you're putting on a great show if it's...
Before she was even married to Harry, Meghan was so eager to flex on Will and Kate that she made a fool of herself with her feminist-oriented word salad. And this is the clip they use because they're trying to imply that Will and Kate are dim-witted conservatives.
Women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice. They need to feel empowered to use it, and people need to be encouraged to listen. And I think right now in the climate that we're seeing with so many campaigns, I mean, with Me Too, there is no better time than to really continue to shine a light on women feeling empowered and people really helping to support them.
Of course, what they didn't show is the parts of the interview around that clip where Meghan comes off like a lazy liar.
How do you hope to continue that work with the Royal Foundation?
Yes, I mean, I think that knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? And in that amount of time, but with that said, for me, it's very important to, once you hit the ground running, even if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, which is what I've focused my energy on thus far, is meeting with the right people, meeting with the right organizations behind the scenes quietly, learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact. I guess we wait a couple months and then we can hit the ground running. But up until then, I'm pretty excited.
But like you said, I mean, you've been here for 3 years. Yeah, wedding first. Get that done.
We
But
can multitask.
having said that, you have been quietly, like you say, behind the scenes, let's just say laying the foundations for your future work. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sadly, I can't.
Look at Harry's face. He's embarrassed either for her or by her. He's angry. He's checking the audience to gauge how many people clocked this mess. Meghan should not have even been allowed to speak her entire first year of marriage. And I say that as a feminist. It's so important to really learn to listen before you start to speak. This idea actually comes from the Catholic Church. A lot of people don't know this. But when a bishop from one city becomes a cardinal in another, they do not change a thing for an entire year. They know that they are in a new place with new rules, and their job is to serve, not to steer at first. Whether you agree with me on that strategy or not, I think we can all agree that this Royal Foundation Fab Four round table was not all good or all bad. They came off very well in sections, kind of poorly in others. But for Meghan and Harry, this was all bad. And not just all bad, but terrible. So terrible, they need to place blame. On who? Not Meghan, who messed up, but William and Kate.
It could be the end of an era for the Royal Fab Four.
The Fabulous Four no more. Meghan and Harry officially cutting ties with William and Kate. The split fueling speculation of further strains in the once close relationship between Harry and William and growing tensions between their wives.
A perfect example of narcissistic splitting. What's your favorite example of Harry and Meghan splitting? Let me know in the comments, and I'll try to get round 3 up as soon as I can. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.